Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we are at last going to start looking at the engine from the GL1000. I'll start by saying I'm not familiar with this engine at all, to be perfectly honest. It's not an engine that I've worked on before, never worked on a flat four, a boxer engine if you like. First time for everything. Engine is an engine at the end of the day. The point of today's video really is to talk about what I'm likely to do to this engine, point out some bits and pieces that definitely need doing, and then make a list of parts, and I'll obviously get all those ordered, then we can crack on with it in another video. So first thing I think to say with these engines is they are generally pretty bulletproof from what I've been told and what I've read and what I've watched. A weak area can be these timing belts. So whereas a lot of motorcycle engines have chains to drive the valves, etc., these engines have timing belts like you would have on a car. So there are two timing belts, one here and one here. It's very difficult with these belts to know how old they are. They often look fine, these sorts of belts, but when they let go, they properly let go with catastrophic results, because this is what's known as an interference engine. So the valves going up and down in the pistons can hit the piston coming up if the timing is incorrect. So we're definitely going to be taking a look at these. These ones are stamped with a Honda logo on them, or at least that one is. I've got a feeling that might be a slightly different belt, so that wouldn't be good for a start. So that suggests that maybe one has been changed. Why you wouldn't change both, I don't know. So I think we are definitely going to change these, there's no doubt about that. I understand that these pulleys here, this one and this one, which keep the tension on these belts via this little spring here, that's the only thing that gives the tension on these belts. These I think can get noisy over time, and there is an upgrade to these which I'll take these off and I'll check them out anyway, see what they're like, but I may well do the upgrade to these with a different type of pulley, which are meant to be a better quality, I think, than these are nice and quiet. So again, that requires further investigation. What I do know about this engine is that I have seen a video of it running. When I took it out, before I took it out of the bike, I did do a compression test, and the compression was slightly low on all four cylinders, but it's been standing for a long time. I think I mentioned this before, I think my compression gauge reads a bit low anyway. It's never read exactly what it should do on any bike I've ever used it on, to be perfectly honest. It's always been on the low side, even on engines that have been newly rebuilt or newest engines with very little mileage on it. So I'm not overduly worried about that. I did do a test to make sure that the cooling system is holding pressure, and it seemed to be doing so. So based on that, I'm assuming that we haven't got any blown gaskets or anything like that. One of the most important things to do when you get an engine in this stage is, in the medical profession, they've got a term which goes something along the lines of first do no harm. And what that basically means is, before you start diving in and trying to fix any problems and look for issues, is to actually take stock of what you've got, and make sure that before you start ripping everything apart, you don't then think to yourself, well, is this correct? Is that correct? I don't know at the time because I took it apart and I wasn't looking. So one of the things that can happen on this engine is these timing belts can possibly slip. I don't think that's the case, or if it has, it's perhaps only by one tooth or so, because obviously I've seen it running, the valves and the pistons obviously weren't clattering together. But I am going to actually check the timing before I start disturbing any of this, just to make sure it seems to be set up properly, because if it isn't, that could be indicative of other problems down the line. But so first job is, while it's just sitting here like this, let's check the timing of this and see where we're at. So first thing I'm going to do is, this engine is covered in lots of rubbish, bits and pieces that shouldn't be there. There's a little ball bearing in there. Wonder where that's off. Slightly concerning. I'll put that to one side. Sure, we'll find out where it came from eventually. So I'm going to get the air line, and I'm just going to blow all this lot off, because what I need to do is get the spark plugs out, and I don't want any debris falling down the spark plug holes. So I'm going to blow this off with the air line. Well, vacuum clean it probably first and then air line, and then we'll get the spark plugs out. That'll make it easier to turn the engine over and check the timing. Worth having a look at the spark plugs at this point in time as well. Just, I mean, it's not going to be particularly indicative really, because it was only run up for a few minutes, and of course nothing was set up properly, but give us an idea of what's going on. These look like brand new spark plugs to me. Wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I think they're new. That one looks quite lean to me. And again, the spark plug itself, all around this bit, all looks nice and new. Take the two out. Next to come off is the timing mark cap, which is this. So I'll just use a steel rule on this, because you can see on here somebody's just used a small screwdriver on this and it's just chewed away the edges. So when I come to sort this out, I'll try and that was a bit loose. I'll try and clean that up a bit if I can. Let's get that off. There's an O-ring on that as well we need to be careful of. So what I'm going to do now is put a socket on the crankshaft nut here, and turn that so that the T1 mark, which we'll see in there in a minute, ends up lining up with that mark, little notch either side of the timing mark hole, inspection hole there. Okay, so I'm now turning the crank, and I've turned it until I can see number 1, and that's followed by an F, and then that should be followed by a T, which it is. And that T, the way the T is, there's a line either side of it. Hopefully you can see that. And the idea is to line up that line on the T with the edge, or that indent there and there. So if I get my head square over that, that looks pretty much lined up to me. Okay, so that now should be set to, there we go, you can see that a bit better now hopefully. It doesn't look lined up to you, I can tell that, but when I'm directly over it, I can see that is actually, those lines are properly lined up. Okay, so we've come around the front of the bike again, and this is the right hand pulley as viewed from sitting on the bike, and what you're looking for is that that mark on the pulley lines up with that mark on the case. As long as they line up, you know that the cam belt timing is correct on that side. Okay, let's move over to the left hand side and check that one. And again on this side, we're looking for the line on the pulley lining up with the line on the case itself just there. And again, they line up nicely, so I'm happy that we've got those the right way around. The other thing it mentions in the manual is that when you put this back together, you need to make sure that you put these pulleys the right way up. So it says up on there, but we'll cover that more when we come to do a bit more with changing these timing belts, etc. Okay, that's a good start. That the timing all looks good. So moving on to the cooling system side of things, we've got the thermostat housing here. We've got the electric fan sensor switch here, and then this one will be the sender wire for the temperature gauge. So that's those components. So obviously we're going to take this off. The thermostat in there we can test by suspending it in a pan of water and seeing what temperature it opens. I shall perhaps show you how to do that in a different video. Okay, if I shine a torch down into where the thermostat housing is, if you can just see the edge of that gold part, you can see is the edge of the thermostat. And I don't know if that will focus in there, but basically there's some bit of fluff, if you like, going on in there. So a bit of white corrosion. There you go, you can see it there. And there looks to be just plain water sitting at the bottom of that, from what I can tell. So that doesn't look brilliant. Looks like the whole system's going to need flushing through looking at that. So moving around to the rear of the engine, we've got the points assembly. This is going to come off, so I'm not too worried about this. I am going to replace this with electronic ignition. I know some people wouldn't want to do that. They want to retain the original points. I'm not going to throw them away. I'll keep them in case anybody wants to put them back on at a later date. But to my mind, it's one of those things that improves the running of the bike. It's a fit and forget accessory. You can't see it. Nobody's going to know that it's running electronic ignition rather than points. So it seems like a bit of a no-brainer to convert it, in my opinion. So I'm going to do that. Cosmetically, this is part of a heat shield. There's meant to be a little heat shield that goes over. I've got the shield, but that needs sorting out. This has come away from the rest of the shield, I think. Because this is a 76 bike, it has got the cover for the kickstart to go in, which is a nice touch, and it's still got the bung that goes in there as well, so nothing gets in there. Then we've got the lead from the alternator, so the alternator basically sits in here. I'm probably not going to take that apart. We'll wait till well, I don't know, I might do. I'm guessing you can't get that out when you once it's back in the frame. So what I might do, actually thinking about it, is I might at least try statically to see whether these windings all look okay, because I have no idea whether the bike was charging or not. Then we've got our clutch actuating mechanism. So clutch cable comes down through this pipe, clutch cable here, and actuated by this lever. There's our adjustment for the clutch. So I know you definitely can't get to the clutch when it's in the bike. So this is all going to come off. We'll have the clutch plates out. We'll check all those, make sure they're within tolerance, replace them if we need to. The output shaft, it looks in good condition. There's no chewed up splines or anything on that. They'll look fine. So that's good. Doesn't appear, it's all been nicely greased, doesn't appear to be any leaks. This engine didn't appear to be leaking at all, from what I could tell when it was running. It's certainly no, it's nice and clean, there's no oil underneath it. So I'm taking that as a good sign as well. Moving over to the right hand side, we've got the output shaft and the splines and the worm gear for the mechanical fuel pump. That all looks good. Doesn't appear to be any leaks or anything coming from any of that, so I'm happy with that. It was running using its own fuel pump. It wasn't a dummy tank or anything. It was running from its own fuel supply, from its own tank, via the actual mechanical fuel pump that fits on here. I've taken the fuel pump apart already and had a look at it. It looks fine, so that can go back on. Moving up to the top, this will be the oil pressure switch, I suspect. I'll double check that one. I'm pretty sure that's what that'll be. And then this assembly here, I think, is, yeah, it just looks like a crankcase breather, I think, of some description. Don't quite know why all this gubbins is on there, although having said that, it looks like there should be a pipe connected to that. So maybe the idea is that anything that comes out of the crank collects in here and then goes down a pipe, perhaps exit out the bottom of the bike. Not sure, again, that's something I have to look at. Obviously the carbs are off this. There's normally a big carb assembly over the top of this. I do have those in a separate box. I have seen pictures of those being rebuilt just before I bought the bike. I don't know how well that's been done. So obviously that's subject to yet another video. Yeah, so the other thing we need to look at is these covers are going to have to come off, and then we'll be looking at the state of the rockers, the tappets, all the rest of it, make sure they're all set up correctly as well. So what I'm not going to do with this is completely split the crank halves apart. I don't see any point in doing that. I say they're meant to be pretty rock solid, these. I don't think, looking at this, I don't think this has been apart. I don't think the cranks have ever been split on this. These look like there might be aftermarket gaskets in here, but normally you wouldn't expect a gasket in there anyway. But there's no signs of any kind of silicon or anything else in there, so I'm pretty confident that's not been apart, and hopefully I won't need to take it apart either. So yeah, that's, you know, it's going to be a sort of general overhaul and sorting out bits and problems as we come across it, and we'll cover off all these different parts in the next few videos as we go. So I think one final thing to say is this engine at some point I'm thinking has been sprayed, because all of the bolts are the same colour as the engine. Yeah, so it's looking to me like these have all been sprayed. The whole lot's been sprayed in situ, which is a shame. I'd rather the bolts perhaps didn't look like that, but again, most of this assembly, to be honest, is completely covered with the carburetors, and you really can't see any of these sorts of bolts and bits and pieces. So I think what I'm probably going to do is I don't want to leave it like this. It's, you know, it's quite dirty, but I'll clean it up properly, and then I'll take a view on it as to whether I'm going to spray it as well. If I do, that'll mean stripping off all the ancillary components and pipes. These are going to have to come off anyway, because all these need to be cleaned out, and I want to polish all these back to how they were. A lot of this engine does have cap head hex bolts on them, obviously not original. Again, if this was going to be a concourse bike, I would want to put those back to what they were originally, but to be honest, I think for the purposes of what I'm doing here, what I might do is I might change those out, because they look like they're chrome, and I don't really like the chrome on them. So I think what I might do is just swap those out for some stainless ones, which will look slightly duller than that and might match the rest of the bike a bit better. So I think that just about wraps it up for this video. So next few videos will be working on the engine, which I know some of you have been looking forward to. It's been a long time coming, but you know, we'll get there in the end. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next video.